It's strange to me how quickly never forget became I can't remember when it comes to Islamist extremism here in America. And this, of course, is something that Representative Eli Crane is going to remind Representative Julie Johnson about over in the Homeland Security Committee. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
You know, this notion that I think my colleagues highlighted that we're only going to pursue serious threats. It's just not true. I visited an ICE facility outside of Dallas, and over 70% of them were classified as the lowest threat level, as never having a criminal record at all. But yet they were there because of the color of their skin. There was not a probable cause. They're not a threat to this country. They have no criminal history at all. I fully support, as does everyone on this committee, Homeland Security focusing on threats to our national security. We want cybersecurity. We want terroristic threats from abroad to be stopped. Absolutely. None of us want a recreation of 9/11, but we also do not want, under any level, the trampling of our constitutional rights and the legal system of due process.
Now recognize the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Crane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this committee hearing today. Thank you for the witnesses. Director Kent, you talked about what keeps you up at night. I believe you said, we don't know who came into the country in the last 4 years. And we've cited several times in this hearing that about 15 to 20 million people came into this country under the last administration. And something that you said actually shocked me. You said that 18,000 known and suspected terrorists entered into the country during the Biden administration. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's deeply concerning, but I'm really not surprised. Many of us in this committee said that's exactly what was going to happen. I didn't know that those numbers would be as high as they are. One of the other things that really concerns me about what's going on in this country is we continue to let people into this country that do not want to assimilate to our culture and want to harm Americans. I want to go ahead and play a video.
Law should be above the U.S. Constitution.
Yes. Yes.
Should Sharia law be over the U.S. Constitution?
Yes.
U.S. Constitution, which is made by people, and the Sharia law is made by Allah. So that is all the way above. That has to be definitely in the land, not for the America, for the whole world would be above.
So that should be above the U.S. Constitution?
Yes.
They always can come with the same accusations. This speaker supports death penalty for homosexuals. This speaker supports death penalty for this crime or that he is homophobic. These are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things.
If the law of the land is Islamic, we will respect the law of the land.
What if it's not Islamic?
If it's not Islamic, then the law of the land and those who make it can go to hell, quite honestly, because Allah says in the Quran, in chapter 33, verse 1, he said, "O Prophet, fear Allah and do not obey the disbelievers and the hypocrites."
You know why they're worried about the border? Watch this clip here that Vinny just sent with Al-Qaeda. I call upon every Muslim in the infidel, criminal, and arrogant United States. It does not matter if they're Arab, American, or other descent. I'm saying to all of them, revenge, revenge. Do not consult anyone by killing infidel Americans. You should have a lot of determination that a list of your targets should be effective.
Director Kent, what do you think when you see a video like that?
I think we didn't have control of our borders, and we don't know who's come into our country. However, we have had around 2.7 million individuals from Muslim countries and Muslim regions who came in under the Biden administration, who went through minimal to no vetting whatsoever, who probably share values like the folks that you saw on the screen.
Director Kent, are you aware that when we invite people into this country and they become citizens, they swear an oath to defend and support the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America and against all enemies, foreign and domestic?
Yes.
What do you believe the long-term consequences will be if the United States continues admitting individuals who either openly reject assimilation into American civic culture or who falsely swear an oath to uphold the Constitution despite having no intention of honoring it?
We simply won't have a country anymore as we know it. I think we can look to Europe and to the UK to see exactly where this leads.
I agree 100%. Director Kent, are you aware of some of the differences between U.S. Constitution and common law interpretations of the Sharia law?
I am broadly, yeah.
What are the differences in your opinion, and I know you're not a doctorate on this subject, but between the First Amendment, which guarantees freedom of speech and the press, including the right to criticize religions, religious texts, and public figures without government punishment?
Yeah, the freedom of speech, I think, is huge because you don't have that under Sharia law, and you also don't have the assumption of innocence under Sharia law as we do.
Many interpretations of Sharia, blasphemy, criticism of the Quran or the Prophet Muhammad can be a serious offense, sometimes punishable by death. And there are many others that I don't have time to get to, but I wanted to bring that up today so that Americans understand the differences and why we need to be very careful about who we let into this country. I thank you guys for the work you do. I thank you for those underneath you working so hard to keep the American citizens and people safe. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
So let me start off by saying this. Obviously, we know that not every single Muslim is a crazed extremist, all right? But what we're talking about is radical Islamists, all right? And back in 2017, Pew actually released some research that said that 12% of all Muslims found that attacking civilian targets to further their causes, religious, political, etc., was okay. It was justified, okay? 12%. Now, that number, of course, is the average. If you look at places like Palestine and Afghanistan, it's 40% and 39% respectively. So, of course, it makes sense to really vet and be careful about who we're letting into this country, okay? But every time Donald Trump says, you know what, we're going to institute a travel ban, what do the Democrats turn around and do? Oh, no, this is some type of racist ban by Donald Trump, even though he was basically just instituting bans that Barack Obama had started, right? With an expansion to places that, yeah, where 40% of the Muslim population think that, guess what, it's okay to use violence to further your causes. Okay. Now, of course, how many Muslims are actually in this country? Well, as of the 2020 census, it was about 4.5 million. But what you just heard testified there was that an additional 2.7 million have come into this country. Okay. So we're looking at nearly 7 million people. And if you take that 12% number that thinks it's okay to use violence against civilians, then we're looking at roughly 700,000 people in this country right now that are willing to do harm in the name of radical Islam. And do you think that's something we could be careful about? Of course it is. But also don't forget there's 18,000 known or suspected Tamarimists that actually came across the border as well during that time frame. Okay? So we have people in this country who are willing to do us harm. And all we have to do is look back a little bit in our history to see a lot of the attacks, right? Don't forget what just happened in DC. And the clip that Eli Crane just played is not something that is outside the mainstream within the Islamist culture. Okay? You can go into several places in this country and see the exact same message being preached from mosques. And all of this, of course, has been well documented and exposed on platforms like X, okay? But what's the main thing we're really worried about? We're worried about compatibility. We're worried about assimilation. We're worried about people coming into this country who really don't want to become America, but rather want to make America something else. And all we ask is something really simple. If you're going to come into this country, you embrace this country. You embrace this culture. You embrace our traditions, our values, right? What makes this country different from the places that you are fleeing. And of course, some of those differences were just listed by the witness there in this hearing, right? The First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the assumption of innocence. These are things that don't exist in Sharia law. And that is something, of course, we cannot allow to happen. So how do we combat this? Easy. Proper vetting, right? We don't allow people in from certain places like Afghanistan and Palestine. And of course, also, we limit the number of immigrants allowed into this country each year substantially. We have to give people time to assimilate while we weed through and kick out all the bad ones. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.